Do you rotate when you squat? Have you ever noticed with your squats that one knee comes farther than the other? Maybe one side feels a little more tight, or your body's actually lined up not straight. All these are signs that you're rotating while you're squatting. Let's take a look at the hips and the femur in a very simplistic view with just 3 lines. You can see when the hips are rotated, one knee is going to come further than the other. Additionally, the left hip right now is in more internal rotation and the right hip is in more external rotation. This is going to play a huge factor in how we can fix this. So when we're checking hip internal rotation, it's actually probably opposite of what you think it is. Hip internal rotation is moving the foot out. So find a stool, a bench, or a chair, raise your foot slightly off so your knee is in line with your hip and just rotate it outward. You don't want to have any abduction, flexion, or extension going on, so simply rotate out. You can do this on both sides to see if there's any asymmetry. We also want to check hip flexion. You can do this by simply bringing your knee towards your chest while laying down. First, check for any asymmetries left to right. One reason you could be twisting on your squat is because you ran out of hip flexion on that side. In this position, you can also check to see where your stance width should be. Try bringing your knee straight up, out a little bit at an angle, and keep angling it out. There should be a point where it's most comfortable that allows you to get into a deep hip flexion. This has to deal with the shape of your acetabulum or your hip socket. So we won't spend too much time looking to the knee itself because usually that's not going to be a point of restriction for anybody. If you can sit on a couch, you can sit on the toilet, you probably have enough knee flexion. Now if you do feel that your knees are pretty tight, especially at the bottom of the squat, we'll get into that in a little bit. So after the knee comes the tibia or the shin bone. Now with knee flexion comes internal rotation of that tibia. This is not going to be a problem for most people, at least not an obvious problem, but it is something worth checking. So to check your tibial internal rotation, you want to bring your foot inward, like such. You want the knee to stay stable so it's not rotating in as well, and it's just the foot moving over. As you can see, I'm rather limited on both sides. You should have more than I do here. When you're squatting, you need to make sure you have ample dorsiflexion. Let's take a look how to test that. So to test dorsiflexion, find yourself a wall or even part of your rack. You're going to put your hand up against it and that's going to be the placement for your foot. From here, keep your hips squared towards your wall or your rack and lean over that ankle. Your knees should be able to touch. Meanwhile, your ankles should not come up and you shouldn't have to rotate your hips into it. Test on the other side. If you find one side is significantly harder than the other, then that's going to be something we need to address. If neither side can touch, then we need to address both sides.
Hey, sorry to interrupt, but don't forget, hit that like button right now.
So now you know how to check the hip, the knee, the tibia, and the ankle for any mobility deficits. So the next question is, how do we fix it? Make sure the band's not high up on your knee, but as down low as you can get it. From here, bring your knee up to your chest and hold it for a few seconds. You should not be fighting it to get up there. To bias internal rotation, you can rotate your knee out and pull up. Personally, I like single knee to chest without bias a little more. Another way to mobilize the hip is get into a tall kneeling or quadruped position, and then you're going to lean back, inducing hip flexion. Again, it should not be painful, you should not be fighting it. For the third mobilization, have the band pull away from you. Bring your knee up and use your opposite hand to help pull it up even more. Do this about 10 times.
To assist with knee flexion, tie a band around the rack. Place it behind your knee so it's pulling them forward. This will provide a distraction as you squat down. This is known as a Spanish squat.
So another way to both test and stretch your hip internal rotation is to get into a 90-90 position. So in this position, your front leg is straight ahead and 90 degrees. Your back leg is straight to the side and bends back 90-90. Now you should be able to sit upright in this position. You may have a little bit of discomfort, but overall, I can sit here without falling over. Now if we look at the other side, I have a harder time on this side and I really want to fall over. So that tells me one of my hips is limited. So in this position, your back hip is internally rotated. So to stretch that, we need to stretch the external rotators. So bring that back leg back to the front, and now you can lean over it. Hang out here for 30 seconds or so. You should feel a stretch back in the glutes. Once you're done, retest. So the first way to improve tibial rotation is by active range of motion or simply doing the motion. Now if you have more motion than I do here, this is going to be a little bit better for you. But if you're limited, you can cross your leg up. You should be able to feel your tibia just south of your knee. It's that big bony prominence there. Just put your hand on there so you can feel it. Bring your foot in and you're going to rotate it. Now you can hold the foot from the bottom or you can hold it from the top. And here we're going to want to do slight rocking motions. Now I'm not cranking on my elbow. Bring your ankle back until you feel tension and it can't go any farther. And then you're just going to rock your body. You should feel this tibia right here rotating towards you. Another simple way to do this is to grab onto the tibia and rotate it. You can do this in a cross-legged position or you can do it seated. As always, test and retest. So let's look at how to mobilize dorsiflexion. Although I saved it for last, this is probably the biggest bang for your buck and where most people are going to find their limitation.
When it comes to ankle and dorsiflexion, there's usually two limitations. You either feel a stretch in the back or a pinch in the front. If you feel a pinch in the front, it's more likely a joint issue. In this case, these banded pulls are going to help you more. If you feel a stretch in the back, it's more likely a soft tissue issue. When we're in a squat, the knee is bent, which will release tension on the gastroc, so usually it's not the gastroc that's actually causing the problem, it's the soleus. So it's good to do some soleus specific stretching. And now what that could be, here we're bending forward using a plate or even just your body weight to really get that stretch down. Now you're going to hold this for about 30 seconds or so, come off, let it rest, and do it again. As always, test and retest. So with any of these movements, test and retest. If you don't test and retest, you're not going to know what actually worked. I hope you learned something. I'll see you on the next one.